shooting is a fairly new sport. It was started out in the desert of New Mexico and Arizona in 1992. So it's not a super old event, and they actually used to kind of run through the desert and shoot these targets. And so it's come around to where it's an arena event now. There are 10 targets that you shoot. The targets are balloons, and what we're shooting is single action 45s. So this is a Ruger Montado. It's a single action. It's probably one of the most common, but several gun manufacturers make guns, mostly that are specific to mounted shooting. They mostly carry something that mounted shooters like. So this is the shorter barrel. This is 3 5/8, and then there's 4 7/8 or 5/8, a little bit of a longer barrel. You can shoot a longer barrel than that, but that gets a little bit too much in your holsters and your gun change. So you'll see typically the shorter barrel or just a little bit longer. The benefit to the little bit longer one is it is going to give you a further spray. So it's black powder that we shoot. It's certified for cowboy mounted action shooting. It's kind of like birdshot, but it's just black powder. So what it is it's the black powder on fire, so those embers spray out and hit the balloon and pop the balloon. That's how you get it, and that's how it's relatively spectator friendly. It's just going to give you a pretty big burn if you were to actually discharge your weapon on your leg or into your horse. It'll burn. It's certified. Or catch your horse's mane on fire.
That's from experience?
Yeah, a little bit.
I didn't do it. It was somebody else.
So typically, they're not going to break a balloon. They're certified to not break a balloon past 20 feet. 20 feet is a long shot. You really want to be probably about 12 feet away from your target, so you do have to ride fairly close. Now the patterns, like I said, you've got 10 balloon targets. So this is a 6-shooter. We load 5 rounds into this. So our empty is our center. So the first time we cock, we're rotating the cylinder over to our first live round. We're going to shoot 5. We're going to holster our gun and pull our second gun and engage our last 5 targets. It's a whole extra challenge navigating that gun change through the pattern. There are somewhere between about 70 different patterns in mounted shooting. So you're never really going to get, you're going to get a seasoned shooting horse, but you're never really going to get a patterned shooting horse because there's just too many options. So that it's kind of like barrel racing, but just on crack. You have to be able to shoot
On crack.
on crack.
Well, they say barrel racing's on crack.
They do,
You know.
but this is a whole new thing because you really can't two-hand your horse because you've got a gun in one hand. So your horse needs to be real well neck reining and or work really well off your seat because you really don't have, if you have to grab down and pick up 2 reins, which we all do, it's not something you want to do. It's because you're having to correct something that they're not listening to. So they need to be able to go through with one hand.
When you're competing, do you know ahead of time what pattern, or do you find that out before you go in the show?
You find that out when you register for the show. So most of the patterns aren't pulled any more than the night before. So you don't have time to go typically practice that pattern before you're going to compete it. The show events can be anywhere from 3 different stages for one event up to 6 typically. It just depends on what they want to do for that event. What you're going to see on Friday night and Saturday night, both starting at 5 o'clock, is going to be 3 stages, both days. There'll be 2 separate events. It'll be a total of
2
6
shows
stages.
in 1 weekend.
2 shows in 1 weekend, and they will not pull the same pattern, so you'll see 6 different patterns throughout Friday night and Saturday.
All levels shoot the same pattern?
All levels shoot the same pattern. There's 2 different associations in cowboy mounted shooting. There's the Cowboy Mounted Shooting Association. The founder of that's actually who was one of the founders of mounted shooting in general. that system is a class system, and it's divided by age and gender. And you start out as a 1 and you work your way up to a 6. A 6 is considered the professional level. The second shooting association is United States Mounted Shooting. That's what we're participating in this weekend, and that's run like a D format system, much more similar to barrels. Everybody's in the same pot, all ages, all genders, and you have to shoot clean. Clean means you do not have a penalty in that particular course that you just ran. So you don't miss a target, you don't knock a barrel. There's something called gates that are two poles that you have to go through. You can't knock one of those or miss one of those. So a penalty-free run, they take all of the people that are clean with no penalties of that stage and they divide that number by 4, and that's what's going to separate your Ds. So it's a very fair system. People that are really high-level shooters could have a big, huge turnaround and have to come back, and they might normally hit the 1D and they still end up in the 4D, but then you're going to get people that are just slow lopers that are going to hit your 3 and 4D and still make money. So that's the system that we're going with for this weekend, and like I said, there's almost 70 different patterns. So do we have any questions about guns, per se? No? Okay, I'll move on to attire. So, cowboy mounted shooting, it really is kind of based off of the Old West, but we are in 2022. They do want to kind of keep it a little bit Western, so Western attire is required. You have to have a long-sleeve button-down shirt, jeans, and boots, or you can also wear period clothes attire for some of the dresses. So you're going to see probably a lot of dresses tomorrow that aren't quite period specific. They're a little bit more modernized, but you probably just wouldn't go out on the town in those clothes either. So you also can wear a helmet. Girls can also wear a split skirt, and if they wear a split skirt, then they can still wear a cowboy hat. If they're wearing a dress, they don't have to wear a cowboy hat or a helmet at all. Otherwise, you have to wear a cowboy hat. So a lot of women that don't even necessarily typically like to wear dresses will wear dresses in the summer because the heat of the hat can be a lot, and the dresses can be flowy, and you wear leggings underneath or bloomers, or some go real all out, very period specific, and typically your younger ones are a little bit more modernized in their attire. So those are, and men, same thing. You're going to see jeans, boots, button-down Western shirts, hats, or helmets. For the most part, you can, if it's really cold, you could have like a Western vest on, or something that should be Western, to keep with the theme of the Western. Holsters, you're going to see kind of all different kinds. These are waist, some go over the shoulder, which you'll actually see. Miss Susan's got over the shoulder holsters over there. It's really a preference. Some people have a holster way on their hip. That can be very hard to get out, but there's a couple of really high-level shooters that are men that prefer that, and they shoot incredibly well like that. You could have a pommel holster, so you could have a holster on your saddle. Typically, you're not, because you have to lean forward and grab that, it's typically going to be somebody that perhaps had an injury, they can't wear them, or they can't pull, or their shoulder, and this doesn't work as well as just here. It's usually not going to be your fastest riders that have them on the saddle, but there are people that have them that it is convenient for them. So there's different rules and specifications to that, which are all in a rule book, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'm kind of just giving a broad overview of what we do. We like to have a lot of fun. So a lot of people, you're going to see, who does mounted shooting? Everybody does mounted shooting. We've got barrel racers, tons of ropers, reined cow, cutters. We've got people that come out of the English world into cowboy mounted shooting, regular play day gamers. ranch hands, just people that just
Preachers.
ranch work, preachers. We've got pretty much everybody comes into it. It's very, very family-oriented sport. We do have kids divisions, which goes up to the age of 11, and then they start shooting. Some of them, most of them graduate that program as a 12-year-old, but they started that last year as an 11-year-old, and they graduate. We have one of those here. This kid over here just started shooting this year out of our Buckaroo program. I'm the director of the Buckaroo program for United States Mounted Shooting USMS, which is what we're doing. So they, the little kids just do the patterns. Some of them are ponied through, which is just a 60-second, which would be like a no time. And then if they can, when they're to the age and capability, they can go through by themselves. They're not carrying guns. They're just working on horsemanship and getting through the patterns. And then our 10 and 11-year-olds are required to carry guns, and they are required to engage every target, but they're not shooting at the targets. So that's prepping them up. They have to point. They don't have to cock either. But that's a whole nother thing. I think all 11-year-olds should be cocking as much as they possibly can, because in a few months they're going to have to be able to shoot and enter as a main match competitor. So you've got people from 12 years old up to 70, 80 years old. I think we have one shooter that's maybe 81 years old. 82. He's still out there putting down some time. So again, anybody can do this. Everybody can do this.
And he's a preacher.
And he's a preacher too. So it's just a fun family sport. It's a good time to get together. There's a lot of camaraderie. You have a horse issue. I've never seen anybody more than cowboy mounted shooters that says, borrow my horse, borrow my gun, borrow my holsters. Everybody wants everyone to win. And that's one of the things that coming out of other other events, you don't necessarily get that. It's a little bit more cutthroat. And that's one of the reasons that people come to mounted shooting, is because it's not like that at all. So we've got these sticks out here. These are poles. This is what you're gonna have 10 of these out there, and oftentimes some barrels out there navigating the pattern. We're gonna put these out, and we're not gonna put balloons up, but we are gonna shoot at them. But we're gonna kind of go around the arena and shoot a couple shots so all these horses can kind of be around the gunfire. We'll start way over there with the shooting, see how everyone does, and get a little bit closer. And then if anyone wants to come in the arena, while we have some main shooting horses kind of sandwiching in and ride around while we shoot, we'll have you do that. It's going to be at a trot. Horses do typically better getting gun broke at a trot. The reason being, in my personal opinion, from breaking a lot of horses to gunfire, is that when they're walking, they can think about being afraid. When they're trotting, they have to think about what they're doing and where they're going. So the other nice thing about that is we have tons of seasoned horses that aren't going to be like, oh, and spook. So then they might go, oh, and then they look over and the other horse is just going along and they say, oh, what am I doing? I look silly. Why am I freaking out? They're not freaking out. So then they just want to keep going. So anybody that wants to come in the arena when we do these first couple shots, we will. And then we'll have just a couple of demo riders. We'll just put 3 straight and show a couple of different ways that you might end up going through the poles. We call our arm out. If you're right-handed, your arm out here, this is going to be a strong shot. But you'll also see what we call a cross shot, which would be over here. So you'll see shots this way and this way through all different patterns.
So strong and what?
Cross.
Cross.
So it's across your body. There's also long guns. We're not going to do long guns today, but we have shotgun and rifle classes, and those are extra fun. Those in the shotgun class, you're going to have one gun of these 6 shooters loaded, and then you're going to have a shotgun that's a double barrel. There's some single trigger, some double trigger, and they're 410s typically, or they're shrunk down to 410s with reducers. And you're going to have on a straight, what we call a rundown, you'll come around a barrel and you'll have 5 targets straight. Well, on those 5, you're only going to have 2 that have clusters of balloons. So one will have 3 balloons and one will have 2 balloons. You come around, you pick up that shotgun, and you're going to shoot the first cluster, and then you're going to shoot the second cluster. In rifle, you're gonna shoot all 5. There's 2 different kinds of rifle. Lever is kind of the most common, but it's also the hardest because every shot you have to lever that action on every single shot. Revolver, you just have to actually cock the rifle. So lever is the most common, but it's also the most challenging. They jam up the easiest. They're hard to lever all the way through. And you pretty much almost always have to drop the reins. So your horses always want to go where? Home fast. So those are 2 of the long guns. We're not going to
down that straight run away.
Down that straight run, yeah. It's kind of like coming home off your 3rd barrel. Like, they just know to go. A lot of patterns have that straight run down. Some don't, but a lot of them do have that straight run down. So we're going to get some loaded here, and then we'll go start shooting off there, and I'll call live fire before we quite get to that point. Their ears are protected when it's that close to their head as well, so I just thought I'd put that out there for anybody wondering about the horse's hearing. These guns don't have any kickback with this black powder. They will shoot real bullets too. Almost all of our guns have had action jobs, so our hammers are quite a bit lighter, and so are our triggers to pull back because you have to cock every single time and shoot. All right.
Hey, Ambo.
So this is a typical pair of earplugs that you'll just put in your horse's ears. They're basically just like craft balls or like cat balls. You can get foam ones too. It's a personal preference. These are like the ones I use. I actually don't do the string because for me it ends up like this or like this. But again, it's a personal preference. But if you don't do the string, it's easy to forget that they're in your horse's ears. So there's that. So
You can use it for demo as long as you put them in the horse's ear.
Oh, bud.
I have one. We came through there, Boo's shooting off his horse. Fast up to care less. But he'd been ridden on the horse and he used to be screaming, hollering. And he was like, what's the big deal? And I'm shooting because I asked Boo before. I said, if I drop your gun in the sand, if he starts bucking, are you going to be mad? Nope, we ride.
I will tell you, most horses do not care about the gunfire. They might be a little like, whoa, what's that at first? A lot of times it's the balloons and the poles.
It's the smoke was
Or
his
the
gun in
smoke.
room and the smoke went on his nose.
Yeah, or the smoke that wigs them out more than anything that it takes them longer to get used to.
Shoot behind them.
Oh, okay. All right, so we have a little bit, a demo, so to speak. He's gonna ride down that side of the fence and shoot over there. So when he gets over there, he's gonna shoot, and he's got 6 rounds. He'll shoot as he comes down and around, and we'll just kind of see how everybody is before we get any closer. Sound good? Y'all ready? Yep. Okay. Yeehaw! Fire in the hole! There we go, nice. Okay, so see that? It wasn't too scary. A couple jumps, so we can kind of pat our horses and say, oh, good boy, good girl.
The second time I
Okay.
Okay, perfect. So now we'll get a little bit close now, and we'll just kind of shoot right down here, but away. And then anybody that wants to come in and try to be behind, Legine, you want to come load?
Out. I mean, got it.
Oh, you're loading?
That's it.
You want to come, like, the wind's going that way, so do you want to kind of maybe come around that way and just go right here, but shoot that way? The wind's going that way. Well, no, I mean, just come right, on the right lead, right here. But so strong, so it's going that way. All right, we're gonna get on this side of the arena, so this will be a little bit louder. Wind's going in our favor, away from us, though. okay?
Yep.
So she's gonna demonstrate kind of the different shots. She's gonna do 2 strong shots, and this third shot's gonna be a cross shot. These would have balloon targets on them that you would need to engage and have pop to count as clean. So as you can see, the first 2, her arm is out here. She's right-handed. So she was strong on the first one, strong on the second one, and then cut through to the right and came across her body, which we call a cross shot, and engaged that third target.
Question.
Yes.
So if she had been left-handed, would she have had to start that pattern differently?
She wouldn't have had to start it differently, but she would have had 2 cross shots and then a strong shot.
So that doesn't, they just count the
Doesn't
same.
matter what handed you are, you're still going to run the exact same pattern.
Pretty much. There's some patterns there's some that you really can only run one way, and there's some that you can run different ways. And so if you're left-handed, you might run it backwards of what a right-handed person would, because it would give you more strong shots, which we typically feel like stronger shots are easier. Usually it's because you can make a farther shot. Your arm is way out here, right? So you have this much extra versus here, your arm's not out. You have to be closer to make a strong shot from where your gun is going to be to the target.
Don't have the leeway.
You don't have as much leeway.
Is there any rules about how far away from the poles you have to stay? You get as close as you want, as long as you don't knock them over.
You can get as close as you want as long as you don't, well, you can knock them over unless they're a gate or something that can't be knocked over. However, there is being too close, and what will happen is if you're too close is when you engage and you pull that trigger back, what comes out first is like a blast of air, and the black powder's behind it.
Right.
If you are too close to that balloon, that target, it will often push the balloon down with the air, and the gunpowder will go straight over it, and the balloon will come back up and kind of wave like, hi, 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 bye, miss, you missed, you missed. So it takes some time, and that's just like seasoning your horse. It's just seasoning you to know really how close you need to be. The prime distance, depending on wind, or let's say you're in an indoor arena and you didn't have to deal with wind, is you want to be probably about 10 to 12 feet up away from that balloon. About 12 feet really from that balloon is like your perfect. So right in the middle of what's going to pop that. Sometimes that doesn't always work. It doesn't give you the best line, and you really need to make shots that are 8 or 18 feet away. If you're 18 feet away, you really better be focused on that balloon target. You don't want to look away until it's popped, always. Okay, so do we have anybody that wants to come in and trot in a circle with the gunfire?
Sure.
Okay, we got one.
All of you gonna do it?
Okay.
Yeah, I thought I'd never seen that out again. It's like, hey, you see? Yeah, like I said, There we go.
That would have been the last one I would have thought would have moved. He was until that cannon busted him a couple of years ago. Well, I'm part of the crew that brings the cannon in. And for 2 years, he was within 50 feet of the cannon. And then all of a sudden,